Now let us understand our business requirements. So our business says that the data that we will be getting in our pipeline will be in the form of sale ID, product ID, quantity sold, vendor ID, sale date, sale amount, sale currency. And they have kept few conditions. As the data is being generated on the single POS systems connected to the network, due to few network issues, there might be few columns that can be or cannot be missing when we receive the data into our big data pipeline. So for those few columns, they have provided the conditions that in case quantity sold is missing, we have to hold the data till the updates are received. So for such cases, if for any particular sale we have not received the quantity sold, obviously we cannot ignore that sale, but we have to hold that data until and unless we received any update on that particular sale ID. And similar condition they have given for the vendor ID. In case for that POS system, the login ID of vendor did not properly provide the vendor ID, but the sales were done. So in that case, we are likely not to receive the vendor ID. So for such cases as well, we have to hold the data till any update is received. And next pointer from them is, in case the updates on any of the hold records that we have held for missing any particular column, in case the update is received, we have to start processing that data for that day of execution whenever the update is received. So I hope that makes sense. Now next condition is the sales amount column. This column, in case we haven't received, we have to derive the sales amount based upon the product price. So whatever product has been sold in that particular sale, we have to consider the product price provided by the headquarters, and also we have to consider the sale currency in which that was sold, because the vendor can be located in any of the location worldwide. So we have to consider the sale currency in which that product was sold, and also we have to consider the daily exchange rate in USD for that particular currency. And then we have to calculate the final sales amount. So I hope that makes sense. You will get the use case more clear once we start building the project. Now next condition is get the vendor details from business data and bind those values along with the final extract for reporting and analysis. Another condition is get the complete sales data per sale ID to be fetched into the reports. So these were few conditions provided by business which we have to take care while refining and processing the data. Now let's go ahead and see what are the next steps to be taken. Now in our last video, we have created the basic project structure. Now let's go back to the requirements, the business requirements, and see how we are going to plan our Spark jobs. So first requirement was to collect the data in some said columns like sale ID, product ID, quantity sold, vendor ID, sale date, sale amount, sale currency. Then we have to handle the missing values, that is we have to keep on hold in case these two columns are missing, and we have to release in case the updates are received. So this comes as the part of project planning where we assess the requirements, and we have to see that what all similar domain requirements that are handling a particular input file or a set of data can be clubbed as one job, and what requirements work on different domains that can be easily separated as a different job. So here we can see we have to read a file, a daily data file, and we have to mark them as hold. And again in second requirement we can see we have to release those records from hold in case the updates are received. So both these requirements are working on the input data and the hold data. So we can handle them in one job. So let's create inside the Python directory, let's create a new Python file. Let's name it daily data ingest. Also we are refining and refine. Okay, now let's start building the code, and we'll see what further requirements are there based upon which we will start creating the other jobs as well. Now first thing that we have to do in first job is import the PySpark modules. So from PySpark, you can already see this because we have already added the content root from our development environment Spark setup, as I've explained in my previous video. So PySpark.sql, you have to import the Spark session. So we'll be using the Spark data frames for this course, and after Spark 2.0, as we are using Spark 2.3, we already have the Spark session facility where we can use and leverage our SQL abilities and very easily work with the Spark data frames. So Spark session is imported. Now let's create a Spark session. Spark session dot builder. Give the same name for this job, whatever this job is doing, because when we are going to run this in production cluster, the same name will be appearing on the cluster logs. So whatever this is doing, data ingest and refine. And for now, right now for testing, we can describe as master local. But before moving to the production, I'll tell you how we have to contract the code. For master, just pass local and get the session from get or create method. And it's a good practice to keep commenting the code, initiating Spark session. Also, if you see such kind of errors, the PySpark follows some rules under PEP 8 that define beautification of your code, and it's better if you stick to the rules that it suggests. Your code will look better and as well as be better understandable. So after each comment, it is an ideal practice to leave one space. So it's not very necessary, but as a good coding practice in Python especially, you should follow this. Now let's read our input file. Let us call it landing file, whatever file is landing in our big data cluster. So reading landing, or you can call it zone, where all the files will be coming. And the schema as given by business for that is, let's define the schema for this first. As of now, I am defining everything inside this code, and later it will be a better understanding for you that how we can read all these parameters from inside the config file. So just to not confuse you, I am as of now writing here, and soon after this I will be telling you how you can read the schema and all the configuration file from the standard config files. So landing file schema. So let us define a struct type schema. As of now, we don't have struct type. So for that, we have to take from PySpark dot SQL dot functions, import, not functions, types. We have to import struct type and struct field as well. Let me show you where we are going to use it. So we are going to define a struct type schema, and to define that we have to mention struct type, and this struct type accepts the list of struct fields. So in Python, to define a normal list, we can just initiate with a square bracket, and this will have all the fields. So struct field. This will be our first column, sale ID, and that has to be string type. So to import this string type, that is again a part of SQL types. So you have to import string type. Now the error is gone. And third argument will be the nullable. Is it nullable, true or false? So for now, let's take it as true, because business has not provided any confirmation that it can come or not. Let's take it as true in case we should not get error in case this is null. And similarly, we have multiple columns. So let me duplicate it. In PyCharm, if you want to duplicate, you have to press Control. You have to place your cursor anywhere in the line. You don't have to select anything. Just place cursor on the line which you want to duplicate and click on and press Control D. So as many times you press it, it will be duplicated. So I'm not sure how many columns are there. Let's see. First is string type, then product ID, and quantity sold, then vendor ID, sale date, sale amount, and sale currency. And also we have just duplicated it, but it is not necessary that data types of them will be same. So let's see. So let's suppose product ID can be again string type. Quantity sold, it should be an integer. So let me define integer type. And again, you have to import integer type from SQL types as well. So now you can import integer type. Vendor ID can be again string. Sale date should be a timestamp. So let me import timestamp type. And here sale date will be timestamp type. Now coming to sale amount. So amount can be double. It is not strictly an integer. So let me import double type as well. And here amount will be double type, and sale currency again can be string type. So this is fine. Now let's take a sample of data and see and try to read it with this schema. So I have created one folder inside which I have created two folders, input and outputs. Don't worry, we are going to do the same setup again once we deploy it on the Hadoop cluster. But as of now, for testing, I have created the input and output directories in one of the directories in my local machine. Inside input folders, as our business told, we'll be getting the daily data. So for that, I have for reference created a sales landing folder. All the products detail that a business will be providing us, that I have created a product folder. And USD exchange rates that will be updated on the daily basis, that for that I have created USD rates folder. And all the vendor details, for that I have created the vendors folder. So right now we are reading the input file, so that will be there in sales landing folder. So let's see any sample of data. So this is a sample of data that we are getting. So as business told, currently you can see here the quantity sold is missing. So let's try to read this with the same schema. I believe we have mentioned the column correctly. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 columns, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 entries here as well. So how we are going to read this? We have to define a new data frame, that is, let's say landing file data frame. And to read that, we can use the Spark session like Spark dot read. And now what we have to read? Now the file that we are going to read, we have to define the schema. Either you have option to define the schema, or you have an option to infer the schema. But there is no need because business has already told us that these are the columns that we will be sending you. So we can define the schema. To define the schema, we will use dot schema, and we have already defined a struct type schema. Let me define the same landing file schema. And the options we can define. We know the delimiter, as we just saw. Delimiter is pipe. As of now, we are reading just the flat files. We can also use the option for reading the compressed files. We'll come to that later. So in option, we can define as delimiter, and the delimiter is pipe. And here we can mention the location as CSV. Where is the file? And it's going longer. So in Python, if you want to define a value in multi lines, you can put a small enter, and here you can see it will automatically add a backslash that will ignore the next line character. So dot schema, or it's better to get it with dot. Same with option and dot CSV. So this looks better. Now we can define the path. So this can be our path. Let's try to see if we are able to read the data. Not landing file schema, but landing file df dot show. Now let's try to run this. Right click, run daily data ingest. So here you can see we can easily read the data. Now let's see what's next. So in our last session, we have successfully created the schema and read the input file. But this is not the ideal practice. As we are seeing, we are hard coding the values of input path or the schema as well. So let's see how we can ignore this hard coding and fetch the values from the config file. So I have created one directory under the main project configs. Let me create a file inside this config.ini. Fine. So now let's try to ignore this entire hard coding and take it from a config file. Inside this config file, you can maintain the sections of different type of configurations. Let's say I'm defining few paths that are to be considered from this config file. So you can maintain this in square brackets. Let's say paths, and let's say input location. And you can directly give the path. There is no need for any single or double quotes because the library that we are going to fetch this config file takes care of that. So the library that we are going to use is config parser. So let's try to import that. Config parser. Now how do you read that? Let's say reading the configs. So to read the configs, you have to create a new object for config parser. Let's call it config and config parser dot config parser. Now what file we have to read, that we have to mention. So config dot read, and you have to mention the path for this. You have to read it like R double quotes. And where do we have our config file? That is inside. This job will call it from the Python directory, and we have the config in the project configs. So we can give the relative path 1/ and the project configs, inside that config.ini. This is the file that we want to read. Now what will be our input location? Input location will be from this config object. We have to get. The get function takes two values. First is the section value, second is the key value for which the value we want require. So the section that we need is paths, as you can see here, and the key is input location. As simple as that. Now let's read, in place of hard coding the value, we can read the input location. Let's see, are we able to read the data? So you can see we are able to read the data just fine. Now what you can do, as an additional point I am telling, that you can remove this config.ini in case you are tracking it in your Git repository, because you don't want to track config.ini, because in case you take it to any production server or you push it somewhere, you don't want to push the configurations of your local machine. This E and all these folders, this is on my local machine, and the project works just fine in case this is running on my project, and in case you are pushing this to any other system, you might have to ignore this file. So either don't add it in case you see it is already added, or you have selected the option for automatically getting added to Git repository as soon as the file is added or something like that. So you can remove this from the Git tracking. In case you want to do that, you can go inside your folder, open this in terminal and run the command git rm -cached and give the path for that, src main project configs config.ini. Use -f for removal, maybe you can use -f. Okay, so this will be removed. So right now you can see this is not getting tracked.